like a compromise when it comes to transportation funding? Do you think?
I'll repeat it. It's okay.
Do you think? I mean, we're having troubles with, of course, the Senate not wanting the gas tax increase and the House not wanting to take the auto parts. You think they could get a compromise where you can get both of them give up something, but they both receive something, and we end up with the governor signing it and have our $600 million a year?
The commissioner just asked if specifically there was going to be a trade from the House to the Senate on gas tax for auto parts. And I would say that's above our pay grade right now in terms of whether that is something that could happen or not. I will point out, I don't think I'm violating anything that you wouldn't know right now if you look at the state budget and what's been going on. And I will say this, I compliment everyone on trying to get something done the last few years, including putting a whole bunch of general fund dollars into this budget. The challenge with that is, and I'll just say it to all of you because I've said it to a lot of other people already, may you never live through the Great Recession again. Because when we were leading during the Great Recession, guess what goes first? All the general fund dollars out of a budget that doesn't get kids educated or doesn't keep people getting their health care or cancer care or whatever. And you know that. The county commissioners in this room know that. And so I would say we live in a dangerous world if we keep relying on general fund dollars in a place that we actually have some pretty good dedicated sources of funding that we can tug on here. Dedicated in the Constitution of the state of Minnesota. So we may have to work more in that framework than another framework right now. I think there will be compromises. I don't know what they are today. There always are. There are always compromises that need to be made. And I think that the governor knows that.
Yeah, I would say, and sometimes it's called horse trading, right? So there'll be people that will want things, and it's trying to figure out those levers and how you push them and what the trade-offs are. But you can't, the governor overall, as you know, is education and healthcare, and then it's economic prosperity. This is economic prosperity. That's what this is about, right? So it's high on his list, but how you find the legislators that will move. That's always the challenge, and that's why the Senate is particularly important.
The Senate is almost like an override on the opposite of what we faced in 2008. So if you just stick with me for a second on this, I think it's important to think about. This time around, we have a governor who wants to sign a bill, but we have a Senate that hasn't been so inclined on some of these issues of revenue. And it's really, that's why it's going to probably come down to the end of session negotiations, to be able to have a negotiated agreement that includes multimodal transportation, sustainable funding package with a whole bunch of other things this time. Tell us your name, yeah.
Yeah, Jason Franson from the city of Delano. One of the frustrations for a county like ours in Wright County is that a bedroom community like Delano and just outside the Met Council, you find that for funding for roads and widening roads like Highway 12, 55, this kind of thing, that we get caught between the horns of the dilemma. Outstate Minnesota, with respect, often does better than, say, the second tier or the bedroom community suburbs, the Stearns, Sherburne, Anoka County, Wright County, things like this. And I just don't forget us out there. We're outside the Met Council. They have their responsibilities. When we talk to MnDOT officials, they all say, Highway 12, we agree with you. It should be widened. It should be done 20 years ago. And it's like you go further out to Meeker County or further, and things like you see the road construction happening out there because they're outstate. They're considered outstate. We're considered metro nearly, and we suffer. And Highway 12 is the most dangerous road in Minnesota for cars travel.
So the question is about how we find some degree of equity and fairness in the entire state, including the communities that surround the 7-county metro or right on the edge of the 7-county metro. And I think it's a really important point. I just drove Highway 12 about a month ago to go out to a awake at night. And I know exactly what you're talking about. It is, in places, it does not feel like you are quite as sure of your driving. And so I think that one of the things we need to do here, and one of the things that any package that the governor is going to propose will help everyone. It will help all counties. It'll help all of those cities and towns above 5,000 easily, because we know how to do that well. We also will make sure, and we're working on the issues around towns under 5,000 right now, because that will be another critical factor in support for this piece of legislation. There's another thing about main streets and making sure, especially where we have the trunk highway going through the town, that we are, and we've partnered with many of you already across the system to make sure that when a redo is happening, that we are working more closely together. And we want to make that even better coming out of this piece of legislation, so that main streets can actually be enhanced, and that there's good both safety for not only the driver but the pedestrian, and for the folks who own the businesses in your town. So I think it's an important point. Equity and fairness is important. It doesn't always mean equal, and you all know that, and that's partly going to be based on the need. And so I think that goes back to our old education days. The state constitution actually calls for equitable education. It's important to think about that in transportation as well. We need equity.
Yeah, I had heard that first of all, my name's Dave Bonneville with SRF, and I had heard that the House had a list of top 10 priorities, of which transportation was not listed there, and the Senate likewise had a list of top priorities, which it was five of them, and transportation was not listed there either. Obviously, this room, transportation is a very important topic. How do you see that playing out in terms of the legislature, and how do we raise the profile on transportation with those bodies?
I'll start a little bit and then have Margaret chime in. But one thing is, this is the Nora Slawik view, okay, is that it's like a poker game, right? So first the governor comes out with his hand, then the House, and then the Senate. Sometimes, I'm hoping, this is what has happening, they leave things off on purpose. They know what the governor wants, they'll leave off, because he's then going to trade them for something they want. And I'm hoping that's the case, and we met with Speaker Hortman. I've also met with Majority Leader Gazelka, and of course, Speaker Hortman is supportive of transportation. It's how do you put these things in perspective. And then I believe they understand transportation, they know about the need, but I do believe it's I believe it's about positioning, right? So like you're playing a game of cards, they're positioning, and that we will get up on the radar screen, but we need all of you to do that. And then at the end, when they really want something, hopefully we get it.
I think it's also about a unified voice. We've got Democrats in charge of the House here. We've got a Democratic governor. We've got a close, narrow gap in the Senate. And I think the governor really wants people to speak with one voice on transportation and transit, the multimodal system. So I will tell you that you should not be concerned that it was not on the priority list of 10 and 5, because what it's really about is having everybody in the boat, rowing in the same direction. You each will have differences with how this looks. I am sure of it. I remember it well from the past. But at some point, to make it successful, we've got to all be going in the same direction here. And when you have, and the governor, what Nora said earlier, and this is one of the things that's so important, governors get what they want and what they fight for. And the governor's a powerful, powerful role in this. When Margaret's talking about us getting the job done, he's our partner in getting the job done here, and we know that. So I think what you're seeing the House wait for is the governor's proposal, so they can build off of that.
Hi, I'm Margaret Levin, Sierra Club. I appreciate both of you talking about the importance of multimodal, and as you let me know 3 in 4 Minnesotans support investments in public transit, and we're seeing that investment, as you said, Commissioner, brings the demand and also demonstrates the need, especially for low-income communities who are relying on transit. And we know that also creates the economic prosperity, it creates good jobs, and it reduces pollution. Can you talk about how we can best demonstrate that need and the urgency of the need for Metro Transit and also Greater Minnesota Transit, and make sure that we fully fund the need and also minimize raise on the general fund?
I think a good question. I mean, part of it is in demonstrating the need is take your talking points today, talk about it to legislators. You know, I remember everything from people bringing in bike helmets and, you know, talking about biking and talking about the bike paths. It's about connectivity, right? It's about people getting to work, it's about people getting to school and having those paths. So I think the legislators understand that, but also talking to them about projects in their areas. A lot of it is, you know, politics is local, so if you can point out examples are what are happening in their areas. We're hoping, you know, with this funding, obviously, to build out these BRT lines to finish, you know, Southwest. Botano's also on the table, as well as get everything finished. So I think the biggest thing is telling the stories of what difference it makes. I still feel like, and you all know this, that it's kind of like roads come first, you know, and bridges, and then people, for pedestrians and pathways, they often think of that second. But in Maplewood, we have both the Bento trails as well as the Gateway trails, and I'll tell you, it is an amazing thing in Minnesota, right? You know, people can bike and walk and run through these trails right in the middle of town. So I think people just have to keep pushing and making that case. If you see this funding package go through, when you see the funding package from the governor, there is good news in there, and helping us get that passed is the quickest way to help that happen.
Okay, well, you okay with that? I think I'm going to do a little bit of, I'm not directly answering because I can't tell you when it's on the schedule, but what I can tell you is when you say 5 cents a gas tax or fuel tax, that doesn't even pay the debt we have out there today, okay? So if you are interested in an expansion project in the state of Minnesota, 5 cents doesn't do it, 10 cents actually doesn't do it. We need to be north of 10 cents, and we need to have a factor of growth going forward if you want to not be working on this or your children working on it 30 years from now. So that is the answer. The answer is when you see the package, you will be saying, yes, they have done their homework, and they are giving us the package we need to be able to pay the debt, be able to leverage our trunk highway bonds into the future, and be able to have some growth and mobility in this system statewide.
Minnesota has been a leader in project delivery. It's innovative methods like design, build, CMAR, safe to sustain, you know, years of time, hundreds of millions of dollars. Is that a trend that you expect to see expanded under this administration, or?
So the question was about use of innovative delivery systems in terms of construction particularly. Richard is a big design build fan, as many of you know. And the department has used design build, the contractor agreements very effectively to be able to, and I think this is what it gets down to, and the governor I think is interested in this, is how do we make our dollars go further, right? How do we make the limited money, because even passing a package, dollars will still be limited. So how do we make them go further? And one of the ways that we do that is by using some innovative delivery methods. It usually is looking at the research. It usually does bring the cost of projects down over time in terms of what's first predicted and then what comes in. It's not 100%. But this is why I think the innovative delivery office in terms of MnDOT is so important, and looking for new ways to do that. That both support the contractors, the subs, the workers, the labor. We need all of those folks to work together effectively, and I think that's where you'll see the values lie on that. Okay, maybe one more?
I'm just curious, Steve, I named for a coalition.
Yeah.
I'm curious,
will quarters of commerce specifically continue if there's a new package? And I don't know exactly. I mean, I think that's one of the places the legislature will have something to say about this. I do think that with a more robust, sustainable funding package, that it is possible that something new could come in that will address the needs of the entire system. I think quarters of commerce was innovative and novel for the time that was needed. I am not sure if under a new funding package it will exist exactly in the same way. All right, how are we on time? Good. You want to do a couple more? Okay. I just don't want to.
Just do some wrap-up comments then.
I'm great. You just go get them today, okay? And feed back that information. That's what we need.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're our eyes and ears. We can't be everywhere.
Hope your visits go well. It's really important. Stick with it till the end of session and help us get the package we all need.
Thanks.
Thanks.